Hi everyone! Today I wanted to do a quick video because I haven't done a video in forever. And I wanted to do a video today about what to do after you quit dieting. Because the hardest part about quitting dieting sometimes isn't quitting dieting, because diets suck, so we're like all happy to get rid of that, right? But how do you move forward? Like, what do you do after you quit dieting? Like, you still want to take care of yourself. And by the way, quitting dieting doesn't mean that you stop taking care of yourself. It's actually quite the opposite. So when you're done with the whole dieting mentality stuff, which is, if you've read the book Intuitive Eating by Elise Resch and Evelyn Tribole. So if you've read the book Intuitive Eating, the first step is to reject the dieting mentality. So you throw out the diet books, you throw out the scale, you stop basically following food plans of any sort, anything that's like weight lossy in its own right. So once you do that, then what do you do? Well, the whole book talks about what you do, but I'm going to kind of summarize it in a nutshell, in my own words. And that is, you are on another journey. So your dieting journey is over with, and now you're on a different journey. So what is that? Well, I call it the gap. The gap is, here's dieting, and here's food freedom. So there's something in the middle here, and it is a transformation, and it's a journey. And so what does that mean? What does that look like? Well, it's going to look different for everybody. It's going to feel different for everybody. Some people are going to be like mourning the loss of a diet, which is going to sound crazy, but if you've been doing it your whole life or most of your life, and you've always had something to do, something to keep track of, something to believe in, something to be body checking yourself with, it's going to be really tough for you to just let go of it and then be like, oh, yay, I'm not dieting anymore. Like, it may be really hard for you. So you may be mourning the loss of a diet, or you may be mourning the loss of the idea that you're absolutely going to get down to the certain size that you always thought that you'd get down to. Like, maybe you might realize, that's not really that realistic. So you may be kind of mourning, you may be pretty sad, and so you may need a therapist to work through that stuff with you. The other thing that can happen is that what a lot of people fear, actually, and why it's really hard to let go of the dieting mentality 100% is because they're afraid that they're going to fall off the deep end. The deep end is basically you're eating ice cream, potato chips, and hamburgers all day, every day. Like, that's the deep end, and that's what we all fear. And I remember when I first quit dieting and first was recovering from my eating disorders, I had a hard time believing that I'm not going to fall off the deep end. But I remember when I was going through that process, I said to myself, it doesn't matter where my weight goes. And so I have to stop looking at that. And if I gain weight, oh well. And if I lose weight, oh well. And if I stay the same, oh well. And what I realized I had to focus on was treating my body well. And so you may find that when you stop dieting that you may kind of go for the foods that you've been denying yourself for a long time. And you may be like, I'm going to have a muffin for breakfast because I haven't been able to have one of those in like a decade because of the diets I've been on. Or you may be like, what, it's hot out. I really want ice cream for dinner. And so you might go through this process that very much might feel like the deep end, but don't worry. Like all things, nothing stays the same. You're not going to fall off the deep end forever. What is really helpful to do is actually to work with a coach on this. So I mean a registered dietitian that actually believes in intuitive eating and health at every size. Not all dietitians believe in this, which is crazy to me, but they don't. And then, or working with a health coach that understands intuitive eating and health at every size, working with someone who is specialized in eating disorders and disordered eating. So you may not have had a full-blown eating disorder, or you might have, diagnosed or not diagnosed. And so what that person can do is a psychologist, a registered dietitian that is specialized in that. I'm one of them. You can actually work with them on one bad food a week that you've coined bad. You can work on one food each week that you've been scared of or fearful of eating because of its potential side effects on your weight or your health or whatever. So we can work with you weekly on exposing you to those foods in a really safe way. So that's what I really recommend when you're starting to take yourself off of dieting or disordered eating or an eating disorder. I hope you have a treatment team if you have one. if you've had one or have one, and make sure your treatment team is okay with whoever you're working with next. So you may be mourning the loss of dieting and this idea of getting down to a certain weight. You may feel like you're fearing falling off the deep end, in which case working with a coach is really, really helpful, or a registered dietitian, a therapist. The other thing that's really helpful is to read stories of other people who have quit dieting. If you read the book Intuitive Eating, they share a lot of stories of people. If you read the book It Was Me All Along, that book's another great one. Also, Big Girl, How I Gave Up Dieting and Got a Life by Kelsey Miller. That's another beautiful one. And to find blogs of people, there's tons of health coaches out there now that have had their own disordered eating struggle and their own dieting past, and they share their stories. There's also podcasts, and really I go to podcasts first and foremost, and books, to keep myself on this path, because the noise can get so crazy sometimes that you start to believe in it again, even though it's just a bunch of BS. But the whole thing is getting yourself back to being honest with yourself and really understanding what foods make you feel wonderful, what foods kind of suck energy out of you, and knowing that there's no good or bad foods and everything can fit. And it really can, but it takes a journey, it takes time, it takes support, it takes patience with yourself and with your coach and with your therapist and with your dietitian to work on this. Like, your food rules and your dieting past didn't happen overnight, right? They were a sum of years and experience, multiple experiences. So for you to get to a place where you're an intuitive eater and you don't consider foods bad or good, and you eat when you're hungry and stop when you're full, or where you're able to have a little bit of ice cream or have ice cream for dinner and not let it throw you for a loop. Like, that's what we do as people in this body positive, anti-dieting world. And we really all love you. That's the reason why we do the work that we do. So I'm excited to work with any of you that are interested in quitting your dieting mentality and having support as you start to go through what I call the bridge, the gap, into food freedom and body freedom. That's the ultimate goal. I know all of us want to just be able to eat and not think about it all the time, and we want to feel good. So I'm here to help you. Bye.